Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining us again this week. We're very happy there are people like you out in our area, people that are interested in what's happening in our city's governments. Because you know, the city governments are the ones that directly affect things in your living arrangements. So we're glad that you're interested in what's happening. If you haven't watched our show before, each week we'll have someone on from one of the 9 cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area to update us and let us know what's happening in that particular city and make you aware of issues that might be of concern to you. And we'll ask you to be sure to take down their phone number and their email and use that if it's an issue that really concerns you. And we're very happy tonight to welcome Mayor Jeff Lunde. We've had you on the program before, so we're very glad that we're going to learn a little bit about what's happening in Brooklyn Park.
Yep, absolutely. Glad to be here.
And you've been on our show before, so you know that I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to our wider audience.
Yep.
Tell our people out there a little bit about you and your time in Brooklyn Park, because people that don't live in your city might not be as aware of you as your own residents.
Absolutely. So Jeff Lunde, Mayor, City of Brooklyn Park. I've been mayor for a little over 5 years. Prior to that, I was on the City Council representing the East District for 4 years. I've been living here since '98. My wife is actually a Brooklyn Park resident, a lifer, so to speak. And so we moved back home for her. And we are blessed with a couple sons who are getting very active in lacrosse and all kinds of other things. So.
And then I've asked you to think a little bit, because this is an election year, and if you have a little advice for people that are sitting out in our audience that maybe have been involved or whatever and are thinking, oh, maybe I should run for my city council. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't give the stereotypical advice. I tell them this. I said 95% of what we do on the city council is very boring. But it's extremely important.
Oh, definitely.
So people tend to gravitate with all these excitements, and they read the paper and they think, I want to be on council. And what they fail to realize, there's a lot of stuff, setbacks, sewer, streets, policies, budgets that require hours of work. And if somebody's not ready for that, they're not going to enjoy their time. And so, you know, we want people to get involved in stuff, but you really have to get excited or interested in things, because if you're not watching, I could say, at the safety, the sewer, and the water, then things can go wrong in a city. And so people, if they're ready for that, things go better, because it is fun, and there's lots of good things to do. But there's a lot of meetings where you're there, but it's important because you're the voice for the residents.
Oh, definitely.
And deciding whether a street's going to be 2 feet wider, which may not sound like a lot, except for the fact that it might knock out 4 trees, add a sidewalk, and then people get
excited.
They get excited.
Right.
And so, but I always, and I always think that people, if they're thinking now they want to get involved because they want to run, they're probably 2 years away from where they should be.
Right.
Get on committees.
Right.
And if you get on committees, you learn more, and you become a better candidate.
Right.
Because people want, when you knock on the door, a person's like, why should I vote for you?
Right.
And you've never done anything. I think people wonder.
Right.
And so I think getting involved will help you as a candidate,
Right.
also help you understand how things actually work. People don't realize I'm not a full-time mayor. I think I am. It's a full-time job, part-time pay. And so, helping people understand those differences.
But it's important, right?
It is. I think most cities in this viewing for this program are, city manager-led cities, and so we're kind of like a board of directors. We don't get in the day-to-day operation. So.
And you get involved with the policies that undergird the decisions.
Yep, in the City of Brooklyn Park, we hire and fire one employee. That's the city manager. No one else. And so people sometimes have a hard time is if they get on council thinking they can just decide all this stuff, and it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So
learning about city government is important too.
It is. I think, it's no different than if you a big company and people kind of come up, they're a salesperson, they get promoted and they get promoted and they get promoted. They have a well-rounded idea of how sales works. And that makes them a better leader.
Oh, definitely.
Yep. So it's, but I always encourage people, look and leap.
Right.
So.
Something that we've talked about on our program for many, many years and preceded us by many years is the completion of Highway 610.
Yes.
And I know that you've been actively involved in it. How many years have they been working on that project roughly?
Yeah, I think 500-600 years.
So it feels like that.
Yeah,
right,
I think I know a couple people have been there from the beginning.
Right.
No, I think it's been like 40 years.
And
so that process of getting that road finished, and we can actually say the end is not only coming, it's in sight, because the construction on that last stage started.
So they've broken the ground.
Yep. So if you go on 610 now and go west, you will hit construction stuff.
Yeah, I haven't gone that past 169.
I mean, we've been blessed because we've had our part done for a few years now, but now we get to complete it, and I think you will see even more activity if that's possible on 610. We'll see more stuff happening.
So there's only like a little over 2 miles that needs to be finished off?
The most expensive 2 miles.
But the most important,
yes,
right?
because it connects in as 94, and that's where the expense
so
comes in.
So whereabouts on 94 will it connect in roughly?
I can't think of the name of it.
Because I don't know the name. It said something about 105th
That's
when I was looking on the
It's
thing.
north of County Road 30.
Okay.
Actually, the road will actually go behind the Super Target there and the hospital.
Okay.
And that's where it's going to connect in.
So right in that general area is
Yeah.
where people will finally get some relief of
we'll
the backed
see.
up
Right
roads,
now it's we see traffic jams every once in a while, so which is kind of cool because but yet then again it just shows there's more need for traffic.
Okay, and so they're completing that roughly 2 miles.
Yep.
And then they're putting in 2 approaches, right?
Yep.
Can you describe what the approaches will be?
Onto 94.
Onto 94.
Yeah, and I know Maple Grove is hopefully trying to get more of a full, not a full cloverleaf, but a more, right now it's kind of like if you want to get off and go south, you have to kind of get off on a city street or a county road and then get going. So it's not it's not like light free.
Right.
But if you're going north, you can just glide on and merge.
Yep.
So it's really made for people from St. Cloud area direction to get on and off. And so I know that they are fighting hard. We've been supporting them to make it a more full.
Oh, right.
I would say light cloverleaf, but yeah.
Where it's easier access both directions.
Yeah, going south on that. And part of the rationale is, if people are going south and they're on 610, they'll go south at 169. And so that's MnDOT's thing is if people are trying to get to Plymouth, there's a path.
Oh, right.
And so we'll see. That's
but it's finally, they're in the last stage, well, almost the last stage, because maybe they have to do a little more approaches to.
Yep. I mean, I think,
there's
there's approved plan. And I think that City of Maple Grove is trying to do what's best for their community and get something a little better. So God bless them.
And
just
after
like
waiting after waiting all this time, you should, right?
Yes. No, and I think it makes, long term it does make sense. I understand, but then money doesn't grow on trees.
Yep, that's the hard part.
Yep.
Now, how will the completion of 610 affect development in that area? What are you seeing now, and what do you think will happen in the future?
Well, I think, for us, development is flying as fast as we can do it. We've got more brokers coming in. We've got more things happening. I think that completes the vision that people, now that the construction started, it's almost like it's done. Because from a development point of view, they're like, okay, it's going to be 2 years for this building is going to be built anyway. In their timeline, it's done because
because they believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, they know that as they're starting stuff, that's going to get done. And so I think that kind of just creates that certainty versus we have to wait for funding and stuff. But, I think people have already been buying into what we've been, pitching about a vision.
Right. So finally, maybe the next time I have you on, it'll be completed, right?
Yes, I think you'll bring
we could celebrate.
Yeah, you bring the mayor of Maple Grove. I'm sure he'll probably do a dance on the table for you. Yep.
Right. To at least start breaking up some of the terrible traffic on 694, 94.
Yeah, it won't solve it, but you know what? It'll be better.
Now, you're in the area of parks, but in a different aspect of it, that Brooklyn Park has always been willing to invest in parks, right?
Yep.
How many parks do you have in your city, roughly?
I believe it's over 30.
Ah.
My wife and my 2 sons last year went and visited everyone and got a picture.
Oh, that's kinda
some
cool.
are not as equal as others. I'll put it that
Yeah.
way. Some are just little neighborhood things that somebody gave.
Right.
But yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah, so there's a real belief in the importance of parks. And you said there's a park within how much?
I think the saying is within a half a mile of every
That's
house,
pretty good.
there is one.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, some of these parks are, or a developer just gave some land and it's
Oh,
just a
right.
green field. Other ones are more full service with amenities and stuff like that.
And you're looking to put in, for want of a better term, an event center park
Yep.
where people can hold public events?
Yeah.
Maybe kind of expand on that,
Well,
what
I think
that
of
means.
the old style like a fairgrounds.
Okay,
Yeah, that's why I look at it. It's because I'm from a smaller, city.
Right.
And, the fairgrounds in the center of the city on the outskirts
right,
where
right.
you'd have this big event. And so, you talk about our Tater Days Festival. It's kind of held in an area that soon
right?
won't be empty anymore. And so you won't be able to shut it down.
Right,
So
right.
we really have no area that we could have a citywide gathering. So a committee was formed and they've been working on not so much the how to pay for it,
Right.
but what do we want?
Oh, sure.
And trying to figure that out, and then where does it go?
Right.
And then the third step, obviously the most important part, is now you know what you want, you know where you want it, how do you pay
Yeah,
for it?
right, right. So it's kind of at a beginning stage for
I
the
think
process?
I think we're past the what do we want.
Okay.
And now we're into where, and I think we have a pretty good idea where it's going to locate, and we're thinking up by the end of the light rail line.
Okay,
Which satisfies a couple things. There's some city-owned land up there, so
Okay.
expenses. There's also a commitment by Target to help contribute some land to a park. And then the other part
put
was...
it both together,
Yeah,
right?
the other part is now all of a sudden we have a light rail system that allows people from the southern Brooklyn Park get to the event, where we haven't really had mass transit options.
Right,
So-
right. No, there hasn't.
So taking advantage, a good example of taking advantage of light rail within a city
Oh,
to
yeah.
maximize your, because so many of the people who live on the southern side of that rail are either in poverty or facing
yeah.
economic challenges. This allows them to take part in events.
Right.
So
So the questions to be answered as it moves forward, you're moving more into the very specifics of what's going to be there, and then the funding.
yeah, I think the mother of all questions, how to pay for it. And so there are different ways to get that done. Part of it is if we have land, that takes,
Oh, right,
and then do
right.
you want to, set up like a 5-year plan and kind of gradually roll it out? Do we wait? Because, if light rail is going to tear up stuff, maybe that's the time you want to do construction,
Oh, yeah.
is, wait till that happens. So don't have those answers yet. We're
Right.
working, that's
A lot of this.
the toughest one.
Yeah.
Because everybody can dream and
Right.
everybody can visualize, but, no one can come with a bank account. So,
So that's all part of the city council, city staff
Yep.
work to put together a plan that meets what you want.
yep. And, I don't want to rule out the fact that you will have businesses who will say, hey, you know what? We want to sponsor this pavilion.
Right.
And then that, they contribute. So we know that there are other things. It's not just taxpayers' money.
Right.
But there's other things, avenues that people, how these things get done all over the place because people come together and decide
Right.
to do something.
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't aware of how long the process is in order, which is important in city government.
Yeah.
That you do have a lot of thought-provoking, people thinking, gathering input over time in order to get good results.
Yeah, and you find out that certain cultural groups inside our city want certain things. Amplified sound. They want to have
Right.
concerts. They want to have these things that have the ability for sound. Okay, so where do we put that so sound doesn't bother 400 houses? Or how do we put it so that maybe we can mitigate some of the sound because we design it.
Right, right.
And so that's one of those things we're going to learn.
Well, and that kind of sprung out of some conflicts between
Yep.
groups, right?
Excitement.
So you're working on answers to that, but
Yep.
there might be a bigger answer.
I think at that time the amplified sound was becoming a problem, and
Right.
And the fact was none of our parks were designed for amplified sound, and so that was one of the outcomes is we need a place where
Right.
people can do things like that.
Right.
And God bless, they should be able to do it.
Right.
But we don't have the facility, so let's talk about how do we get from nothing to something.
So there's a citizens group, a city council
There's
group,
a task
staff?
force that
A
has
task
been
force, okay.
being chaired by Councilmember Jordan,
Uh-huh.
who I think he's very involved in the amphitheater. So
Okay.
this has been a passion of his, and he's taken it and running. And we've got members from different members of community, businesses, and they went out and looked at other cities
Right.
to get an idea of what's cool and what's not.
Yeah, that's
So-
a good starting point.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that signature design is what
Mm-hmm.
people are looking for.
And so that people could follow this task force work.
Yep, often you go out to brooklynpark.org. So
Right.
we run everything. We try to put everything out there so people
Right.
can have plans. And we do lots of alerts. We have, the next door and some of the
Oh,
information
right.
things that we
Right.
get people to say, hey, there's a big meeting. Let's talk about this. So,
Yeah, there's a lot more opportunities to interact with your residents now than
Yeah.
there used to be.
yep. And a lot more opportunities for people to ignore things, right?
Right? Well, you probably get more. I think the response when people do their surveys and things, there's more and more people taking advantage
Yeah.
of your website and of the next door.
Yep, next door.
.com
Yep.
and ways that, because people are interested, but they have a lot of pressures on their time, right?
Absolutely. I think, it's the same old case as it's been for 100 years.
Uh-huh.
People get interested when it affects them.
Oh, definitely. Right.
And so we try to do is make sure that we're capturing that. And, sometimes the answer is we've had 12 meetings and notifications. And
right.
so I understand why you're feeling left out, but there's been opportunities for you to engage, and you have a responsibility. It's a double.
Definitely.
If we're reaching out and trying to
Right.
get people, and we're honestly asking for input, please give it to us.
And so it's important for people out there to take that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because you really, people aren't always sure that their input is wanted, but you really need it on a city
Yep,
level.
yep. No, I think so. And, I think people they believe that, hey, the decision's already made. And sometimes, sometimes decisions happen made.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes there are things that we can do to help
Oh,
things
definitely.
better. Or sometimes things are just not a good idea.
Yeah.
And, but I know this, without input, nothing good can happen.
Right. Yeah, you need a lot of different people's ideas at the beginning of a process, and then gradually refine it down to what the most people can agree with, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is, as you move through dreaming, right,
Yeah.
and then you start adding, okay, wallet, where's my wallet?
Right.
How am I going to pay for this? You start to say, okay, this part of the dream, that, or you hold on to it and you're like,
Oh,
what, if we ever got somebody who said, we're going to give $100,000 to the city,
You be ready.
there you go. Yep, we got something
Right,
for you,
right,
know?
right.
So,
So another area that will encourage people in your city
Yep.
to tap into.
and, and I think that's the whole point, is that if people don't engage at all,
Right.
I guarantee bad things will happen.
Oh, definitely.
I can't guarantee
agree.
good things will always happen when people give their opinion, but I guarantee this: if no input, you get less
Right.
than you would want or need.
Right. Oh, I would agree with that, definitely. Well, now we're going to change topics completely.
Yep.
And a while back, I read an article about the suburbs moving to tax increment financing. And I know that people hear the term, but probably don't know a lot about it. So I've been asking people from all our different cities to
Is he
tell
making
us.
a good explanation?
Yeah,
I'd like to hear it.
Well, no, because if we get a lot of different ideas on it, then I'll put it together into one program where we can share
Yep.
what's going on. Because every city is different in how they use it.
Yep.
Now, my understanding is the program was originally set up to deal with blighted areas of a city and bring in new jobs. I think that's right.
Yep.
And so what changes have you seen in this whole program over your experience at the city level?
Yeah, I think Brooklyn Park was one of the innovators 30 years ago on the use of this, and we apply it all the time. The TIF districts that are set up. I don't know if we've set a new one up recently.
Okay.
But we did ask for some permission from the legislature if we could hold on to it.
Right.
And so the money part of it. And so it's not something you want to do, but sometimes you just have to. It's called an economic development fact of life that this stuff redevelopment doesn't happen by itself.
Right.
And so, tearing down old properties or taking care of problems. People don't realize is that we had a TIF district set up for affordable housing when we tore down the apartments.
Oh, right.
And we had this money, and we used it for affordable for the teen homeless shelter because it met the requirements of affordable housing. It met a need, and the area is pretty much all affordable housing by market.
Right.
So adding more affordable housing to a market that already has it didn't make sense to us. But this is where we got the money for the teen homeless shelter.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't aware
And so that was one of the
right.
I call it unique and innovative ways of using it. But other things that move a underground gas line because you can't build over one. So what happens if you don't move it? You literally have acres of land that all of a sudden ceases to have any economic future because it has to remain empty.
Right.
And so what you'll do is you use some of this TIF money sometimes or development money to move things that a developer's like, I'm not going to go here, I'll go to the next city.
So it helps cities do developments that maybe would never happen?
Exactly. Yep. And you hope to tie it to things like outcomes, like we don't front load any kind of development agreement. So if you're a business owner and you came to us, we'd be like, yeah, we'll participate with you, but you don't get any of that until you show us you've lived up to your agreement. So the check is not on the first day. But yeah, it's an important tool that sometimes it could be there's environmental issues.
Oh yeah, because there's only certain things that you can use this financing for. Maybe you could tell
And sometimes
us.
when they're first set up, you kind of define what it's used for.
Okay.
But yeah, there's an area of Brooklyn Park that had a history of plating where they a lot of chemicals.
Okay.
And back then they didn't know any better; they just dumped them into the ground.
Right.
And so we know that some of that stuff is not quite a super fund, but it's a site the EPA. So anytime if there's going to be a redevelopment, the developer's like, I'm not paying to mitigate this problem.
What somebody else caused,
right?
right?
And so that's where the city typically goes. If we make it green, will you build? And that's the agreement.
And then maybe you can describe for us where does this tax increment finance come from?
Yeah.
Tell us about
this
that.
is the hardest one.
This is the hardest
yeah,
part.
this is the part. If somebody can pull this one off, you need to sell it because of that. But my description is that when you set one of these TIF districts up, you basically say, okay, whatever the value is of all the property, that's the value. Anything above that, if it keeps going up, the money that is derived from that taxes goes into this fund. So the original, if it's worth $1 and you say this is our TIF fund, that tax off that original dollar keeps going to the general fund, so to speak.
Oh, okay, so the cities
or the county,
and the school district and the county, they keep
Yep.
getting that tax.
Yep. But let's say the value of that dollar goes to $2.
Okay.
Well, that tax on that second dollar goes into the fund.
Okay.
And again,
that's the increment.
And I'm praying that I've explained that right. But that's that. And so what that fund, that money is allowed to you to use it to redevelop or do things. Maybe you need to tear down a big building, or take care of something. So
so it might be demolishing. It might be preparing the land. So it's
And it might be incentives. It might be. There's a couple, and there are very hardcore rules on what you can use.
Only specific things that you can use.
And that's where the affordable housing TIF district we had was set up years ago, and it had never been used because no one builds affordable apartments in an area that's 100% affordable.
Right.
And so, and frankly, I think the citizens would question the sanity of the council. And so, but when we needed to use that TIF fund for the homeless shelter, it was there.
So it served a good need for your community.
And it's $1 million paid for that building that the city still owns, but.
Now, one of the not necessary problems, but one of the points that they mentioned was that what's going to help with that development is not available then to the county or the school district. Maybe you could talk a little bit
and that's,
about that.
when I use that example of the second dollar.
Right.
Okay, so that money, that tax money and that second dollar it's diverted to that TIF fund, and therefore schools, county, and school, the taxpayers like, hey, wait a minute, why isn't that taxes usually paid for police and fire? well, we've got something that's designed for it. So there's a problem if you use it too much.
Oh, right.
You cap off your, and then the taxes would have to increase more in that first dollar because the second dollar doesn't contribute. And so there's it's a chicken and egg scenario.
But then on the other hand, nothing might happen in that spot because of the detriments of the particular plot.
I think most people prefer not to use TIF districts if they could, but sometimes life isn't a choice of what you want to do. It's sometimes what you have to do. So
now, cities have to be careful in how much tax increment financing they put into their city.
Yeah, and I don't know the rules. I think there's one city that is almost all TIF districts, and so they've had some problems with that reason because they've went wild with that, and then all of a sudden taxpayers are subsidizing the fact that depreciation isn't paying for the
basics,
house. And so you just have, it's a balancing act,
right?
And so I think everybody, as soon as you can, as soon as they end, people are happy to end them.
Right.
So.
And then the money in that little increment allows you to get bonds to sell bonds to make the demolishing happen or to make the roads happen or whatever.
Yep. Most of it's, I think, in Brooklyn Park, and I don't know about other cities, we've tried to invest it in hard things. In other words, not a gift to somebody for coming here, but like moving the gas line, moving power lines, putting a road in. Things that we know has a benefit to all residents, not just the one. We've been pretty keen on trying to do.
And then, so another decision the city has to make is how long would that bonding period be?
I think I want to say 10 or 15.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, but I believe it might actually be 10, unless you get special consideration from the legislature. So, and sometimes we ask that the original conditions that some TIF fund was created are not going to be met. And so we may ask for the legislature to provide language to say you can use it for this because and technically it's not available.
Yeah, so and the whole thing is controlled by the legislature.
Yes. Yep.
So from time to time they make little changes and people go there for particular needs.
Or they make a change that we have to run down the Capitol and go, wait.
What are you doing?
Us and another city got a big problem with this.
Right. So does Brooklyn Park have any TIF districts
we have
right
a few.
now? Okay.
Yeah, I would say 8 or 9.
Okay.
And they're very specific, very bound specific things.
Well, thank you. I think that was a very clear explanation.
I don't know. We'll see.
We're going to help people understand it.
Whichever one of all these different leaders gives the best one should.
But if you join them all together, then people get a more full look at that process.
I think most people feel that it's I would call it a necessary evil.
Right.
That if I could go my whole life without having one, I'd be happy. That's not the reality.
Well, I want to thank you so much because we've covered a lot of different areas.
Thank you.
And I also want those of you out there to know that starting May 2nd, you're going to need to go to channel 859 because it's there right now. You could go watch it there tonight, but channel 19 will no longer be the station that you'll see our program on. So tuck that away, and if you can't find us come the beginning of May, go to 859 and that will help you out. And we're glad that you're with us, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Bye.